When I talk about a player who's new to TF2 and they decide to pick engineer, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Most likely it'll be the image of a well-known playstyle known as the turtling engineer. In fact, the playstyle is so well known that some cosmetics which reference this playstyle, Dell in the Shell and A Shell of a Man, were added to the game in October of 2018. But where do turtles actually come from? Believe it or not, the most likely source for the turtle strategy is from Valve themselves, the TF2 tutorial system. I believe the TF2 tutorial is extremely flawed and needs a complete overhaul. So, follow me as I try to pick apart and analyze the TF2 engineer tutorial. I'll be splitting this video into 3 parts. I'll start off with a quick recap of the tutorial itself, in case you're not familiar with it. After that, I'll go through the tutorial step by step and note down any issues I have with it. I'll then go through the tutorial a third and final time and give my own opinions on how to improve it. Personally, the tutorial as a whole just doesn't work, and I prefer a complete overhaul of the tutorial system, but for this video in particular, I'll try to retain the basic format and improve it as best I can, while staying within the bounds of the current system. Real quick before we start, all sections of the video are timestamped, so feel free to jump around as you see fit. Now, without further ado, let's begin with the recap of the tutorial.
Let's do this!
Right. Let's start off with a recap of the engineer tutorial. First off, you need to know where to go in order to find it. It's quite well hidden, honestly. To get to it, you need to open the Play Game menu, navigate down to Training, and click on Basic Training. It's a little weird how they hide the tutorial in this maze of menus, especially for newer players where they get bombarded with notifications when they initially boot up TF2. Anyways, this is where the engineer tutorial, as well as all the other class tutorials, are hiding. I'll select the engineer, as that's the class we'll be dealing with today. Here you'll get a summary of the engineer and his toolkit. Let's begin. After waiting for a bit for the tutorial to load, you'll be greeted with a 30-second introductory video which shows off a summary of what the class does. As it's a bit lengthy, I'll speed this part up a bit. Once you're done with the video, you'll find yourself in the typical TF2 tutorial map in the usual spot. There you're instructed to build a dispenser in front of you, and upgrade it to level 3, using only the metal the dispenser generates. As this part does take some time, I'll once again speed it up for your convenience.
Dispenser going up!
Once you've finished, the barrier lowers and you're instructed to build a sentry in a specific spot, which is marked with a blueprint. You're supposed to upgrade the sentry to level 3 as well. This time, however, you're provided with a full ammo box to assist you. But even with this ammo box, it still does take a bit of time because of the distance you need to walk to pick it up. After the sentry is upgraded to level 3, you're informed that bots will attack your position, and you're supposed to turtle behind the sentry to stay safe.
Play ball! Here I come!
After that, you fix up the sentry, and you are instructed to place the dispenser next to you.
Packing up! Phew!
The final building introduced is the teleporter. You're instructed to build both an entry and an exit, marked by blueprints as usual, and the final thing you're told to do is to destroy all your buildings before you're booted back to the main menu. Now that you're familiar with the engineer tutorial, let's go through it step by step and I'll pick apart things that I have issues with. Of course, the placement of the actual tutorial menu is not optimal, but that's an issue with the tutorial system as a whole, therefore I will not be commenting on this. The summary screen of the engineer is actually quite decent, with a rundown of his 3 building types, the sentry, the dispenser, and the teleporters, as well as the stock loadout, which is the shotgun, the pistol, and the wrench. The only thing really missing is the mention of what a sentry gun does, as the dispenser and teleporter functions are both explained here. It'd also be nice if they added some sort of pop-up which would give more details if you hovered your mouse over the weapons or buildings, but that's just icing on the cake. I'll also go into more details in the third section of this video. Next up is this video. This goddamn video. From the recap, you'd know this video is quite lengthy, to the point where even I had to speed up the footage so it wouldn't get boring. My main gripe, besides the fact that this video is quite slow and even the slowest of readers can get through it without missing anything, is the fact that it doesn't follow my mentality of show don't tell. Here, they tell you that you can build buildings, they tell you that you can upgrade with your wrench, and they tell you that teleporters bring people to the front. It's also a repeat of what the summary earlier had stated, only with the addition of a slow and boring video. It also misses out on some important things the engineer must be aware of, about how teleporters are important to maintain due to them basically acting as pseudo spawn points for your teams, how sentries get more health and fire speed if they're upgraded, how the same applies to dispensers, as they dish out more health and ammo at higher levels, as well as getting more health. Overall, this video is slow, boring, and extremely uninformative and useless. My guess is Valve wanted you to feel the embodiment of their endorsed engineer playstyle, which is slow and boring. Hell, that's the main complaint from many non-engineer players. He's just too slow and boring. Moving on, the next part is your first hands-on experience with playing engineer. You're trapped in this tiny box, and you're supposed to build a dispenser and upgrade it using only the metal this thing generates. Once again, it's a repeat of the general tutorial's issue. It's slow. Also, this is most likely your first time experiencing the engineer, so isn't getting used to how he controls important? Why not open up the area and let him run around first, experiment with his other weapons, and once he's ready, return to the spot to build the dispenser. Also, the dispenser is the slowest building to build out of the engineer's arsenal, taking 21 seconds or about 9 seconds if boosted by a wrench. This is quite a bit of time, and on top of that you're supposed to wait for this thing to generate 350 metal? In the footage I tried my best to act like a new player, taking time to read the messages before doing anything, and I still had to wait for the level 2 dispenser to generate metal. I know that you're trying to cater to new players, but why limit to those who are, say, faster at reading and can grasp concepts quicker? Next up is the sentry part. Yes, it's slow, but at the very least you get a level 3 dispenser built and you have an ammo pack to assist you building the sentry, which does help speed up the process a bit. But why did they have to put the ammo spawn so far away? Were they scared you'd accidentally pick it up or something? Really, some of the decisions really baffle me. After it's leveled, the game tells you to hide behind sentry gun, and honestly I get the sentiment. Back in the day when there were less unlockables that might have made sense, but still, why not shoot at the enemy or something? Splash damage is a very real thing, and if you are near the sentry, there's a very real risk that damage aimed at your gun hits you instead. Besides that, you could also just shoot the guy with your shotgun, as an engineer isn't entirely defenseless. As a certain white-bearded uncle has said,
forcing your enemy to take 2 versus 1 fights where one of them is perfect aim will automatically give you the upper hand in almost every fight.
Luckily, the bots don't punish you for going out and shooting them unless you're unlucky and get caught in the crossfire. If they were normal bots, I believe they'd change target to shoot you instead of the gun. Still, I do like the idea of bots attacking the sentry, which is a demonstration of the show don't tell mentality. You show the player what a sentry gun is capable of, how powerful it is, but at the same time how fragile it is, as it takes damage during the environment and is a sitting duck. Anyways, after you patch up your sentry, the part where they want you to move your dispenser next to your sentry is a very questionable decision at best. This is also the final puzzle piece of introducing turtling to any new potential engineers. Dispensers just aren't for you to hog, but meant to be for your team. The tutorial doesn't help in this regard. On top of that, the Valve bots in offline practice mode actively do what the tutorial teaches and turtle next to their sentries with the dispensers right next to them. For any new player, they'd see that and imagine that's the only way to play engineer, and of course if you end up playing stalematey game modes like Capture the Flag, that playstyle is cemented even further. Allow me to quote this wise uncle again. Another one of his quotes is,
"Sentries get kills, dispensers save lives, and teleporters win games."
What this means is the teleporter is the most important of the engineer's buildings. It acts as a pseudo spawn point, skipping the walk to the front. It allows your entire team to keep putting pressure on the battle as they can be at the front faster. Compared to dispensers, which would keep them healthy but can't do anything if they're dead, and the sentry gun, which can't really protect the front lines all on its own. So why is the teleporter lightly brushed off in the tutorial? It basically covers building the entrance and the exit, how to destroy them, but nothing else. Yes, it lightly touches on rotating the exit so it faces in the right direction, but you don't do any of it, and it just tells you how upgrading reduces the time between teleporters, but it doesn't explain how big an effect that actually has. 10 seconds is a long time, and it could be the time it takes to walk to the front in the first place. Another thing is the entrance and exit placements don't make sense, and the topic of positioning isn't even mentioned. Not even a hint that the teleporters shouldn't be kept out in the open, near the front lines or anything along those lines. Seeing how the engineer bot plays, players are likely to copy their behavior, which means placing the teleporter entrance right at spawn and the exits right next to their sentry. That is, if they even decide to build one in the first place. That's a very risky thing, as a single splash damage class could take out all 3 buildings and the engineer at once, taking them out of the picture. I guess you could argue that the engineer bot's doing exactly that, and being taken out by explosives is a way to teach players that this playstyle is risky, but most of the time new players will be busy fighting instead of watching their engineers, and at most they'd notice the engineer has just magically disappeared. That's all the tutorial offers, but there are some other points I'd like to bring up. The tutorial only touches on the engineer's buildings, but doesn't even mention his primary and secondary. Yes, they're mostly for self-defense, but not mentioning them is a big mistake in my opinion. I've seen quite a few new engineers just go down with their nest, not knowing abandoning it is a better choice, or always just having their melee out and never pulling out their shotgun to defend themselves. The engineer might be a squishy class, but a shotgun is a shotgun, and if you land your shots in self-defense situations, which most of the time will be at short to medium range, the engineer can at least deal some hefty damage to the enemy, or even take them down, allowing them to escape and rebuild. Cooperative engineering is also not touched upon, the fact that you can use your own metal to repair and upgrade friendly buildings. The engineer bots don't work together and only care about their own buildings. I've seen countless times of an engineer bot deciding to rebuild his own sentry instead of unsapping a level 3 close by, only for everything to be blown away by a demo man or soldier just pushing up. Cooperative engineering is an important aspect in a good team with multiple engineers, and improves the strength of the nest and the team as a whole. Speaking of nests, another missed talking point is crowding buildings and nests together. I've already mentioned that positioning your buildings close together in a turtle style is not good, but having multiple engineers set up in a single location is worse. It's just inviting an uber demo man or a spy to just run in and destroy it all. Ah yeah, spies. The tutorial also doesn't show how spy sappers affect anything, how it disables buildings, and how they can be removed. It's definitely something that has to be mentioned, as there are plenty of spies in casual, and they'll most likely be the first major hurdle any new engineer has to deal with. Now that I'm done going over my complaints about the tutorial, let's go about fixing it. Personally, I dislike the current setup of the tutorial as a whole, and I will want to rework the whole system, but for this video, let's try to keep the current system in place, and work with the base already laid out. This means keeping the introductory video at the beginning, the boring text boxes, and the same training map location. Everything else is fair game, however. My mentality when remaking the tutorial is to show not tell, as many people dislike reading long text boxes, and instead, having players do the action or having a bot demonstrate it for you would be nicer for the player, but also a better way to teach, as the player will be able to remember what was taught quite a bit more easily. Let's start at the beginning, this video. I'd reserve this video to explain things that aren't possible to demonstrate in the sterile training environment that you're placed in. Some examples what I'd include would be good sentry placements, good dispenser placements, good teleporter locations, as well as what the buildings do and how it looks like when a team uses the buildings. I wouldn't directly explain what makes a good position, that could be done in the tutorial, but it could show a good placement whilst introducing the buildings. This would be a rough idea. This video takes place on Upward as the positions are pretty static and common for engineer players. When introducing the sentry, you show the typical position behind your team and the front line, occasionally shooting the odd scout that overextends. The team would then fall back to your dispenser around the corner, showing off a good dispenser placement. They're for your team. The placement can also be emphasized by showing off a teammate that heals and restores ammo at the same time as being able to spam over the hill. After mentioning that the dispenser can heal and restore ammo, you show off the teleporter, which is the most passive building, and showing how slow classes like Heavy use those to get to the front line quickly. Hopefully this gets my point across. I admit I have a slight bias towards Upward as a map because I personally just love it, but the concept would work on any map. The main goal is to introduce the building and show off what it does, as well as give a rough idea of the layout of a nest. Moving on. When you've dropped into the training map, why restrict the player to this tiny box at the start? Why not lower the barrier and let him run around for a bit? Or at the very least, allow him to experiment with shooting some targets if he wants to. For example, you could put up some wooden targets that the engineer could shoot, or just start building the dispenser. Once the barriers are lowered, the targets all self-destruct and the tutorial moves on. Although, I do prefer the openness better. I'd say keep the dispenser building part, but move the ammo box explanation to this point. Since the dispenser generates metal slowly anyways, why not introduce metal packs here? A slower player can take their time, but someone who is faster can also build the dispenser faster. Another option would be to add the faster building feature that was added in Meet Your Match, where double metal is consumed in exchange for double upgrade per swing. It might cause some issues though, as newer players might take that as the normal build rate, which might lead to some confusion in the future when they jump into a proper match. The sentry section is fine duration wise, as the metal pack is there plus a level 3 dispenser is available. I'd say adding a demonstration of the different DPS outputs for the sentry would be good, however. For example, having a single scout run in front of a level 1, then in front of a level 2 to show how fast he dies. Of course, the bullets used to shoot the scout would mean that one would require more than 200 metal to upgrade the sentry, but it could also serve as a demonstration of repair and upgrade during combat. Plus, the 200 metal upgrade requirement would already have been shown prior in the dispenser section. The movement mechanic is explained by asking you to move your dispenser next to the sentry. I'm alright with introducing moving here, but the location should be changed. Perhaps the tutorial should mention that dispensers should be near the front lines and behind a corner, such as behind this wall over here. Giving a general guideline for the placement of dispensers should be enough, as new players should be smart enough to figure out where to place them once they're told that dispensers are for your team, and place them around corners to keep them out of the line of fire. Optimally, it'd be good to give some examples, but given the constraints I'm working with here, I'll have to settle on this simple explanation in the intro video and a general guideline during the actual tutorial, as this isn't the proper map for this anyways.
Sentries get kills, dispensers save lives, and teleporters.
Yeah, we've done that quote already. Since the teleporters are such an important building, I'd like to add more details to this section of the tutorial. If it were possible for the gate at the back of the room to open up, I think it could come in handy for a little demonstration. First off, the player is instructed to build a teleport entrance, then an exit. The exit is placed in a position that's around the corner and out of sight, as an example for positioning. Then, the gate opens up, and you see 3 engineers, each with a teleporter entrance, and with each a different teleporter level. They then step on the teleporters to demonstrate the recharge times of the different levels. It's a crummy idea, but honestly I can't think of anything else. In the end, I think some of the more miscellaneous mentions are required. The most important thing would be the introduction of the sapper. Yes, it's covered in the spy tutorial, but no matter how badly, but I don't think it's fair to rely on previous tutorials when you're introducing a class. How I'd go about it is, when you're introduced to the teleporters, a spy would come up and sap your sentry before undisguising. The engineer should be told to run back to a sentry and unsap it by hitting it with his wrench. In the meantime, they'll notice the undisguised spy, and once the building is unsapped, the sentry will attack the spy. If the gun goes down, the tutorial could just instruct you to take out the shotgun and shoot the spy instead. Or, another option would be, the player shoots the disguised spy after seeing him place the sapper on the gun before unsapping the building. If the player decides to remove the sapper instead, the spy would just simply reapply the sapper. Another thing one could mention is potentially the danger of sticky bombs. Since they could be lobbed over obstacles, a demobot could probably lob some stickies over the top of the crates and aim for your sentry. The engineer should then be instructed to run away and save their own life instead of going down with the ship. Honestly, this is a little bit excessive for the simplistic tutorial mode, however, so I doubt that's realistic to have in this version of the tutorial. Alrighty, I think that's enough rambling. This is a more vague concept of how I'd imagine the TF2 tutorial if it were less boring. Yeah, let's go with that. Either way, I'm not happy with the current tutorial system as a whole. The text boxes are clunky, the minimum time you have to wait until you can skip them is very annoying, and overall the tutorial is just slow and restrictive, and it's very hand-holdy. I'd love to remake the tutorials as a whole, and probably will in the future, but this is all you're gonna get for now.